Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Hudricolive. And today, my guest, listen, I've had some good guests, but this time, we're going into the court of law. You know, we are bringing in Nina Harrison, a media sports attorney, Esquire. I mean, this girl knows the law back and forth, and it brings a great person to talk about what we want to talk about today. Today, we are diving in somewhat because it's still fairly new, this NIL process. And if you are not familiar with NIL, it is name, image, likeness. And after July 1st, it has taken college football by storm. This is actually seemed to be more talked about than the big game between the Hurricanes and Alabama. I don't know what's going on in the world. But Nina, how are you doing this morning, ma'am?
I'm doing great. My AC is working finally in this hot Miami. I'm cool. I'm happy.
Listen,
I'm blessed.
Life without air conditioning is truly unreasonable and unfair, and I'm glad you finally got it working, because if you didn't, I could completely understand if you said, hey, I can't do it. I don't blame you.
Can't do it. But no, I'm happy to be here and just chat and talk about NIL or any other, related matters that people have questions or you have questions on, because it is a hot topic for now. It's trendy. It's definitely on the trend side. So
it's definitely trending up. But
it's hype right now. There's a lot of hype over it.
It's all over. Now, I see you love sports. Now, I've watched you on your Instagram. Like, you are quite the character. Like, entertainment is your business, and business is good. But you have liked sports for how long? How did you get into the sports arena when it comes down to doing law? Because I know there's so many different types of lawyers, but you got into the sports world. Talk to me. How do we get there?
I first and foremost, I want to mention,
okay,
this is the boys club.
Okay.
It's the boys club, sports world. And that's always been embedded in my head since high school, college, because I've always wanted to be an agent. I always wanted to be involved in sports, period. But the naysayers were like, nah, it's hard. It's too this. Even women, even like friends were like, nah, I tried it, but it's for men. Don't even waste your time. So for years, like decades, I was like, all right, cool. I'm just going to focus on doing entertainment, which is what I love to do anyway. I love television, film, theater, music, all the above. Sports, I just kind of was like, all right, I'll just sit back and just be a fan, as I always have, and play it, because I played sports in high school, middle school, and college. So I was like, all right, I'll just enjoy it for fun. And it wasn't until like a few years ago, actually, the Super Bowl. And I just, ran into a few fellow players that I knew, and, I talked with them, talked about my dream of being an agent. And then I told them, well, the reason why I didn't do it is because people said I couldn't, and because I'm a girl, and it's for guys. And they're like, what? Like, you better get in it. Like, what, don't let these people, tell you to not do it, because girls, if anything, women are dominating in this industry. Like, I definitely want to shout out a protege or, a muse, whatever you want to call it. Mine, Nicole Lynn, is definitely doing it big for women in the sports arena. There's a lot of other female sports attorneys out there in the NBA and NFL and all sports arenas that are out there. So that's definitely been my motivation and inspiration to just say, you know what, F it. I'm going to do it. Why am I listening to people just because you couldn't do it? That don't mean I can do it. And COVID hit. So that kind of put everything like on hold. Like, I couldn't even go to games anymore. I couldn't even just show up like I wanted to and just politic with coaches, politic with players like I was doing. And I was just like, honestly, I mean, it wasn't depressing, but I was definitely in a rut, which I'm sure thousands and hundreds of other people can like relate. Like 2020 was a rut. Like, a lot of athletes just felt that way. And also people in the industry were just like, what are we going to do? We got to find creative ways to do something. And so now that we outside,
I don't know if y'all in Miami ever went inside.
We never did.
Watching y'all from afar, we like, do y'all even have a virus down there? What y'all doing? I don't blame you. What I loved about your story, though, was just how you showed determination and how you fell into the trap that most people do fall in. What somebody tells you can't do. And we hear that so many times. And because we don't necessarily see it, we believe, well, I guess I can't do that. But you still was able to find a way to overcome that hurdle and start building your brand and start building what you're doing and start marketing. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I just seen you sign 2 clients recently. I mean, you're doing your thing. So kudos to you. But
Thanks.
Speaking of signings, NIL, that is like the biggest sign in the world. And I've been getting questions from all across the globe. And let me preface this by saying this, everybody who's watching, I just know what I hear. I try to trust and verify. This is such a new process that we all are still learning from, that it's going to take some time to see what it really comes into. But I think it's great for you to have a foundation on at least what's going on in this arena. So when these kids are thinking about these NILs, what are some things that they need to be aware of? Like, the different types of contracts, exclusive and non-exclusive. Like, what does all this stuff mean when you start saying, hey, I'm finna go hurry up and sign with this company or sign with this representation? I'm just going to go sign something and not knowing the fine print of that contract.
Well, first and foremost, I kind of want to humble these athletes, these student athletes that are just getting committed, just signing on to a school. Congratulations. It's big. It's huge. You got these 4-star, 5-star recruits coming in there on scholarships. You're like, yeah, I'm ready to cash in. This is not a get rich money quick type of scheme. Like they're coming in here thinking, I'm going to get paid. Right now, if you look around articles, if you really look at the economy of it right now, like the economics of it right now, ain't nobody really getting paid like that. Like these little brands that are coming out there on social media, coming out there like since day one, they're like calling all athletes, come sign, represent our brand. Like it's the brands are the ones trying to take advantage of this right now. Mm-hmm. The bigger brands, the Nikes, the prominent brands that are signed with NFL people and that are signed with bigger companies, they're laying low right now because right now, at the end of the day, they don't know what these kids are doing. Like these kids that are coming in fresh, you're going to be riding the bench for a while. You're not going to be making playmaker. You're not going to be a playmaker unless you really, really, put your best foot forward. And that's not to say that there's no all-star freshmen that come out there and make playmakers. It happens all the time. But let your work show for itself before you start being like, okay, I'm worth something now because I'm wearing a jersey. Mm-hmm. Nah, that's not what that is. However, I'm not going to knock a student athlete's hustle to get some extra change. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're abiding by the protocols of your school, reporting it, you're not representing any illegal substances, alcohol, tobacco, CBD, marijuana, stuff like that. As long as you're playing it safe. But at the end of the day, it's a distraction, really. I think it's really a distraction for these newcomers coming in. Like when you got to think before NIL even came about, these recruits that were coming in, they weren't thinking about that. They're thinking about, yo, I want to be a starter. I want to make plays. I want to do this amount of stats. This is my goal. I want to make this amount of yards per game. I want to play all games. I want the recruits at me. Like I'm trying to get to the draft. I'm trying to play on Sundays. Facts. That's the initial mentality. But now the NIL has come in and it's like, whoa, it's like a dog. It's like, oh, squirrel. It's like bring your focus back to why you're in this game in the first place. Definitely. Come back to why you're really here. Don't lose that focus. You got to make a decision on your priorities. You want to be a social media influencer, or do you want to still be you want to make it on the ESPN highlights? Do you want to play on Sunday? That's the notoriety you want, because once you make it on those ESPN highlights, that's when the brands come. That's when the money comes, not this little nickel and diamond. Oh, $50 to promote my clothing line, $50 or 15% commission to promote my brand. That's cool. Get your little $5 per product if you want. But it's not, I don't think it's right now. It's just too soon to just put all your eggs in this basket of trying to definitely connect all these brands, So I definitely think that is true. When you look at some of those deals that come out, you take De'Aaron King, everybody says, oh, he got $20,000. And then it's hard to explain this to a younger person,
But when you start adulting, you start paying them real life adult bills, $20,000 don't go as far as you think it will. You know, and they start seeing these deals, they think, oh, I'm making money. I believe the best, I won't even say the best, the highest brand deal that I've seen was Oregon's Thibodeau. He signed a memorabilia deal with Phil Knight and another partner to kind of get that one going. But people don't understand that young man is projected to be like the first defensive end taken in the draft. So it's not like, oh, it can happen, but it's built for these elite players. But even if a person does get into it, contract types, and we don't have to go all the way into the nuts and bolts, but exclusivity. You know, what does all this mean? The difference between these different types? Because if somebody signs with somebody, I mean, they can't sign with anybody else. Like that's some of the stuff that people may not know.
Well, for one, it just depends on what type of agreement, who you're signing with. Mm-hmm. One, I always recommend getting representation. Whether, you know, sometimes it could be an official attorney, it could be an agent, it could be a marketing rep. Great. Or sometimes it could just be a trusted friend or relative or mentor that can help guide you in that isn't trying to get into your pockets. Like right now, the money is really not worth it for a lot of companies to be trying to eat off of kids right now with these smaller deals. But for instance, if you want to deal with a marketing representation right now, you know, you have exclusive and you have non-exclusive. Exclusive meaning you cannot sign with any other marketing representative. So any type of marketing, any marketing deal, anything related to your name, image, and likeness, that's the only company that can handle all of that. Even yourself, like you can't even go out as an athlete and go procure your own stuff. So that means, let's say a brand reaches out to you, which is happening all the time on social media, DMing you, that person, because they're under an exclusive contract, they need to take that deal and send it to their representative. Like, hey, you know, this is what it is. You know what I mean? And then non-exclusive is just, look, you're just giving us the right to just represent you and do whatever we can. You can work with whatever other marketing agency you want, any other agent, but at the same, you know, we're just here to, you know, get the best option for you. And that's something I recommend, at least now, for these newer athletes that are coming in. Don't sign your life away exclusively so quickly to a marketing representative, especially if you don't really know the background of the company and what they can do for you. And just, you don't want to block your blessings. You don't want to block opportunities because you're just stuck with one marketing rep, and then they can just end up really not doing for you.
Not doing nothing for you. And then
have an obligation. A lot of these deals don't put an obligation on, oh yeah, we're guaranteed to bring you in $1 million this year. Like they don't have to work for you. They just got you, you know? And they're preventing you from doing your own thing. So that's that. And because this is so new, it's like, I don't recommend it, but I don't know what other companies are doing. Everyone has their own business model. We're all trying to figure it out and what's best. Like same thing with me. I start off doing non-exclusive, but it's only like for certain players or certain caliber of players. And then, like you mentioned, the guy from Oregon, you know, you have these players that are guaranteed, or you know they're going to play on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And the brands know it. And so they're more willing to do the memorabilia deals and start early. Start with the rookie card. Start getting them in early with brands and stuff like that, with bigger deals like that. I don't want to sound like an old head, because it's actually said about me too, because I'm technically a millennial, but you know that stigma of, oh, everyone has this entitled mentality. And that's what these kids are coming in right now. That's what this NIL has created, this entitlement mentality for some of the kids. I'm not speaking on behalf of all of them, but at least from what I've seen, because I have spoken to a lot of smart kids that you can tell they're getting guidance from the right people ahead of time, you know, and they know, okay, this is just a hype, you know, I know I'm not ready yet, or whatever the case may be. This doesn't really apply to me. And like something you mentioned before, the NIL, that whole thing was not really talked about, and it was really created for those elite players that are making the highlights, that are being the playmakers, for the Tebows that were selling. I think to date, and I might have to Google it later, but Tebow, I think, still holds the record for like the most college jerseys sold. I think to date, he still holds that record. And it's just stuff like that. Like he could have made you know how much money he could have made?
Tebow, like, what was this at when I was going around? I don't want to get into the controversial situations, but I believe a part of this controversy, this is a way for NCAA to say, okay, y'all keep asking us about money. Here, let me give you something. Now you go make your own money, because this NIL has not stopped NCAA from making $1, not 1 cent. They still going to be a $1 billion industry, but yet they saying, hey.
But that was their argument for so long. Oh, it's taking money and whatever excuses they had. But
so another question that was posed, and you know, I ain't gonna lie, this was actually one of my favorite questions that a kid sent me, because I was kind of a little interested. He said, so does this mean when if they do make the college football game back on the Xbox, you know, the NCAA, one of the best things ever, does that mean everybody on the roster gets paid because they're making a player like them for a video game, kind of like they do for Madden? Like, how does that part work?
For the EA Sports and all that?
You know, for the video games.
You know, I think there's a lot of back and forth in that, because those contracts are so deep and they're real. They have these long-term, like probably 15-year, 10-year, 5-year deals with these companies. So I can't really speak on, I don't know what the terms are on there, to where, you know, when these kids signed up or when they are an athlete, they're automatically granting or releasing their name. Their right of publicity, which is a legal term, which is just like the name, image, and likeness. They're automatically kind of given that to the school, because they have to release their right of publicity when they're on television playing football. They're not getting paid from advertisers from when it's on ESPN
and that commercial comes on.
That's the school, or that's the company getting paid from advertisers. So those contracts are so complex. It's just, they're just kind of untouchable and unlocked as far as what the athlete's trying to get in.
So question for you. So now for these college athletes, can they say, for example, Spencer Rattlers of the world, or your Derek Kings, or some of your higher names, can they now go like and host like a youth camp and say the Derek King youth camp and now get paid for that because he's using his name and his likeness to draw people in to attend something like that?
Absolutely.
Oh man.
Is if they want to say, hey, this is so-and-so athlete from University of Miami, they need to get that University of Miami logo or, you know, approved by the school first, you know. You can take it off of your name, but, you know.
But if you want to use a logo from that school, you still have to get that school. If you want to use the
logo, have, you know, kind of affiliate the school name with it, then you have to get approval for that.
That's not bad. So now, with this NIL, so when a person signs an NIL, that has nothing to do with their commitment to a university. So if somebody assigns to go to Miami and signs an NIL with some of the brands or some of these smaller brands that sign it with the Miami players, like I believe the fighting club is giving every scholarship athlete a certain amount of money for certain appearances and such and such. Does that lock a student into that school? Does he or she have to stay at that school once they've signed an NIL?
No, absolutely not. The NIL has nothing to do with the school. The kids aren't signing NILs with the school. They're signing NILs with brands or with marketing representation, or, you know, with outside third-party people. It has nothing to do with the school. The only area where the school jumps in is their reporting policy, their own policies of what they need to do, what they can and cannot do, what they can and cannot. You know, it has to go through an approval process still with the schools. So like if you have a I keep saying but let's say UM player ends up going to Alabama in his sophomore year instead. Okay, he's just an Alabama person, and whatever brands he was working with, whether they want to follow him there or not, that's on them. Oh,
okay. So it doesn't necessarily change what a student can or cannot do. It doesn't lock them in anywhere.
No, the NIL has nothing to do with the school. Like there's no contract with the school and the student to do that.
So another question that was brought up, that was a very good question. Let's say if a school is sponsored by a major brand, major product, say if they sponsored by Adidas, and a kid does reach the level to where they get sponsored by, say, Nike. How does that work? Can you sign with a competitor if they have competing brands? Is that allowed?
That's $1 million question right now that us and my partners, my marketing firms are figuring out to this day. And, I'm sure we'll get an answer soon. And that's something that is a conversation to be had with schools and with the brands, because again, everything is contractual. Everything is confidential. So it's really a matter of what would be a conflict of interest? Mm-hmm. What would be, again, these type of deals, just like I mentioned with the EA, these deals are so long term. They've had, they sign with these companies for so long, for a certain amount of time, where things are already grandfathered into contracts, where technically I'm assuming that a kid could go ahead and do a Nike deal. However, they can't have Nike in Alabama. They can't rep Nike with wearing their Alabama jersey. That I know for sure is just strict, just out of speaking from just business and just competitiveness and just how transactional law works.
Like it becomes so many laws.
Yeah. It's just kind of just part of business. It's like if Adidas, because if you see on the field, Adidas is on the jerseys. You can't be having a Alabama jersey with Adidas on it, but then, be promoting a Nike brand wearing your Adidas jersey. Like that's with any brand. That's Coca-Cola, that's Pepsi, that is kind of like, I hate to say it's common sense, but it's not common sense. Sometimes for me, it's just a matter of business, but the kids, that's something that people don't think of.
And they definitely have to pay attention to it. And I think that's where what you mentioned earlier comes into play. Now you're putting so much into this instead of let's just play football, because now when you add in all these different entities and can I wear this? Can I wear that? Can I do this? Can I do? Well, let's figure out what we can do. And that's one of the reasons why you do this. Now, some of the things that the schools are doing, schools are hiring companies to help these athletes, like the Open Doors, these other different people. From what you've read or what you know about these companies, what are these companies, these third-party companies supposed to be doing for these athletes? Or at least the general basis?
From what I've done on my research on, it's not something that I can speak 100% on, but it's just based on what my knowledge and what I've heard directly from athletes that I've talked to and have sat in these little seminars and trainings from like Open Doors and Compass. And from what I'm told, they're just basically providing this service more from a digital standpoint on social media. And they're also, so basically from what I've read on what their services are, the schools are hiring these companies to create a digital platform. So it's a tracking platform to help them report whatever, deal they do, whatever brand they're working with. It's an application. Mm-hmm. It's something to make it easy. We're in a digital world, which of course makes sense. But when it comes to what they're telling these kids, it's just more on social media and tracking their social media, tracking their content, tracking, okay, what sales are they getting if they work with an affiliate company, if they become an affiliate. That's all that I've really heard from that. And I've heard stuff like, they're teaching these kids, that they're giving them a range of, if you have X amount of followers, you should be worth this. People should be paying you this amount. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I think that's dangerous waters to just kind of give these kids these expectations, these false expectations, or I wouldn't say false, but inaccurate and not proven expectations.
That a word. Yep.
Everything is subjective. Everything. Again, I still think it's just way too early to just hop on this NIL bandwagon. Let's see how the season plays out. Let's see what these kids are going to put on the field, because there's a lot of kids that aren't starting, but yet they're the first ones
to sign a deal.
Deals, gaming deals, the apparel deals, drink deals. Like, okay, but by the time you get on the field, your name is not getting mentioned by commentators. You're not getting highlights. You're not getting mentioned by your coaches. You're like, who are you? This puts you back into the category of being a Fashion Nova model. Now you just want to be a social media influencer. Okay, cool. You can have as many followers as you want to. Get your little blue check. But if you're not doing anything on the field, if you're not performing on the field, the only brands that are going to be knocking on your door are the same just brands that just, you have a lot of followers. So we can get you have access to a demographic.
A demographic.
Exactly. They don't care about your stats. They care about your social media. So that's the difference. It's like it's levels to it. It's levels to branding. It's levels to the marketing. There's just, I want to get these kids, at least the ones that I work with, and I'm very picky and very strategic with who I choose. I'm not trying to have a large roster of kids because I want to be able to give 100% attention to everybody. And the first thing I tell them is, look, you are a brand. Just you. As I'm a brand. You're a brand, Trevor. Everybody, you are a brand in your own self. Name, image, and likeness. Okay, it's just a legal jargon. It's just title. You have to look at yourself as a brand. And what is a brand? You have to look at yourself as a business. You are a business. How you represent yourself in the community, how you represent yourself. Okay, yes, on your social media matters, but really it's on and off the field, how you represent yourself. How do you want your brand? How do you want people to remember your brand? Brands are not about logos and slogans and pictures and fancy poses and gear. That's not what it's about. It's about creating an experience
for the people who,
like when people think of your name, when people think of Jordan, what do you think of when you think of Jordan?
You think of the shoes, you think of the dunks, you think of the basketball. I mean, all that. Then you think of that jump man.
And why do you buy his shoes? Why do you buy his gear?
Because it means greatness. I mean, that's literally what it means.
Because it's great. So you see how that's attached to that, how the experience is attached to that brand. So these athletes, that's why I go back to the, focus on the field, let your work and your performance speak for yourself.
You know what? I got an idea. How about this? In your opinion, give me Nina's top 5 NIL takeaways. If we could condense it down to a list.
Let me get my notepad.
Nina's top 5 NIL takeaways. If you had to come up with that list, what would that be?
My top 5. Let me see. Top 5 dead or alive. Sorry.
Look at you.
I'm also a hip hop head, so I'm not gonna. That's a whole nother.
We have to bring you back to talk about that.
Every time I hear top 5, but back to sports. Number 1, and I've said this earlier. Do not get distracted by this whole NIL hype. Do not get distracted. Stay focused on the game. Stay focused on playing on Sundays. Stay focused on going to the pros. That's why that's why you're where you're at today. That's why you started playing Pee Wee football. That's why you started middle school and high school. That's why you put so much work. You know how hard it is to get to where you're at right now, just getting recruited into a college? Don't let NIL just take your eye off of the real long-term prize. This NIL stuff is temporary right now until you get further up to when you're ready, you're draft eligible and people are looking at you, you're making plays. Focus on that.
Okay. That's number 1. What's number 2? Give me number 2.
Educate yourself. Watch these videos. Read. Get articles. Talk to sports professionals. If you have connections to people that are in the league or just in the sports arena, period, that know about this. Talk to your local sports counselor, because these schools, that's one thing the schools are providing that I do know, that they are providing counseling to these kids. Not as much as I have seen, but I definitely would like to put a program, like to plug that in. We're developing an educational program curriculum to teach these kids about financial literacy and branding and creating something for themselves, creating wealth in the long term. So that's a whole nother thing.
Please let me know once you get that popping, because I would love to have you just to talk about that, because that's something that's very near and dear to me, teaching people how to deal with money, because a lot of people don't.
No, absolutely. It's like the school, every kid I talk to, I'm like, so what do the schools tell you? Like, nothing. They just, like, they give them, it's little bits and pieces. They give, so much. But that's life.
Number 3, what you got for me?
Number 3, get representation. Have somebody represent you on your behalf that you trust, that is in your best interest. This goes back to the exclusive and non-exclusivity thing, and understanding your worth and understanding, who you're dealing with, whether it's just a mentor that you've had your whole life that you want to represent you, or reaching out to a professional marketing representation company to help you, because you need to be focused. It goes back to the first part. You got to be focused on the game. You can't be focused on trying to reach out to brands, because it's a business. Definitely. You're running a business right now, and they don't realize that. Now,
with that representation, and just, you can spitfire, but how much does representation cost? To get somebody to represent you, is that something that should be a fee, or is it kind of is it like the guy on the billboard? You get paid when we get paid. How does that work? Because a lot of these young athletes don't know.
Most of what I've heard, and also what I have done, is the standard, at least, is what these companies are trying to do is get 20% off of, these kids, off of whatever deals. But when you go to these smaller deals, like I was going before, these affiliate deals where you're getting 15% commission, these kids are really only bringing in $5. What's 20%? It's not worth taking 20% of this kid's $5 that he just gained, or $10. So it's really case by case. I can't speak for what other agencies are doing. I think, again, it goes back to everyone's trying to figure out a consistent business model, and whether or not which kids are worthy of signing exclusive and which kids are worth taking 20% out of. Sometimes there's deals where, okay, there's a threshold. It's if we get you a deal that's over 20K or whatever, then we'll start
to do this. Okay.
But if it's below, it's not worth our time, but we're still going to push you. You know what I mean? So,
because one deal leads to the next. Okay. That leads us to number 4. What you got for me? Number 4.
Actually, this goes, I think it might be a little bit repetitive, but it goes back to just be mindful that you are a brand on and off the field. You represent yourself, no matter everything you say, everything you do, whether it's on media, whether it's on the field, whether it's just walking around and just being at social events, social media. Be mindful, because you are a brand, and you need to protect your reputation on that, so that people respect you and will come to you.
I understand, and that's very big. And I tell people all the time, having a teenager of my own who's also soon to be a Division I college athlete, I tell them, what you post, it don't go away. Don't let Snapchat lie to you thinking it deletes. The things that you put out there and the things that you say can come back to haunt you. And when you're trying to build a brand, that microphone, this thing here, is always on. I don't care whether it's in front of you or not, because people may see you from afar and want to say, "Ooh, look what Hudrico did," or "Look what Nina did," or "Look at this and that." And you don't want to have those situations that stop you from being great. Okay, number 5. Go finish the list off. What you got for me, Nina? Finish this off.
Last but certainly not least, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This, again, I sound like a broken record. You got to treat yourself like a business. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Jay-Z says, I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man. Boom. I had to drop that in there. But you got to look at yourself as a business. And a lot of people aren't business savvy. You have I want to teach these kids, how to build a corporation, which they're allowed to now under NIL. That's another thing that, you're allowed to build a corporation for yourself, build a brand just for you, or build a brand to come out with a product. If you can find investors or find people to do that, there's so many avenues to make money now outside of just being somebody's brand ambassador. Get creative with yourself, with your business. And it takes time. It's a marathon. any business, any startup, you got to look at yourself like you're a startup. That's what these kids are. You are a startup company. You're a startup company, and you need to put in the work to build your brand, whether it's doing community service, whether it's making plays out there. You got to put in the work to make yourself valuable.
And you know what's funny that you say that, and it's kind of the piggyback. It is a startup, but see, what these kids got to realize, you're a startup with a slight advantage that you got a chance. If you bust your behind and work hard, you can inject your startup quicker than any other business.
Absolutely.
You go out there
and easily get investors. You can easily get a booster or somebody.
You go out there and score 5 touchdowns.
You're right. They do have an upper hand. You're absolutely right.
You have that upper hand, because if you go out there and, like I said, you go score 5 touchdowns against Alabama, guess what? Oh, you popping now. Right now, this is your moment in the sun, and you can take advantage of that. But the key to that does not come by chance, by coincidence, or by luck. It comes from not being distracted. It comes from keeping your head in the game and working hard.
Exactly. And I want to add a bonus.
Uh-oh.
5. With that said, with the business and all this money we talking about, don't forget about Uncle Sam. That's going to be right there, right next. Just wait. Uncle Sam is the one right now that's more excited about NIL right now.
He's like, they think they make their money.
Make a little change. Come make a little change, as long as you know. So that goes to that goes back to representation and building a team as well, like representation that will guide you properly, that will give you all of what I just listed, the education, give you the guidance, give you the consulting, give you the financial literacy. You need people around you, a small circle around you that will teach you all of that and not lead you astray and end up like Wesley Snipes, in jail and tax evasion.
See, so many kids don't even know who's Wesley Snipes. They don't even know who Wesley Snipes is.
I know, I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's you dating yourself, but I know who Wesley is. And we're here for you, brother. We know you want to.
If you see Coming to America 2, I'm sure
you should know.
And he's in that one.
There you go. So I mean, now listen, you gave us a great information. This leads me to what I like to call my final time out. For my final time out, ladies and gentlemen, she has just laid down the game for you. Basically, hear me when I say this. You have to be educated about what you want to do. This NIL does not take away from the fact that you have to work. This NIL does not change the fact that if you get consumed by it, you will not only not reach the NIL levels you want, you will never reach the level of playing on the field. But then she also started with a message earlier for all my young ladies out there. Don't let anybody tell you what you can't do. I'm all for women empowerment. I want y'all to be strong, be great. Everybody can win. I believe there's enough food out here for everybody. But if you hungry, you got to work if you want to eat. Nobody's going to give it to you. Some situations are the good old boys club. But guess what? Every club has a door to it. Are you going to come in or are you going to stand outside? And that brings me back to you. Miss Nina, tell me what else you got going on, man. I listen to the word on the street is, man, you got movies popping. You know what I'm saying? You up on social media. You representing people, man. How can the people find out more about your playbook? See how I did that playbook, tied that right in?
I'm a little multifaceted. So like I kind of I chose the name Playbook, Nina's Playbook, because there's a playbook to life, to everything. Sports, entertainment, dating, acting, everything. You know what I mean? There's a playbook to everything. So I'm a very multifaceted individual. I love entertainment. I've been involved in entertainment since a child, doing TV commercials, modeling, doing acting, being in sports, in every sport you can possibly think of, I think, except badminton or cricket. Something, don't nobody offer that. I'm also, I also represent and I talk to basketball players as well. I have college basketball players reaching out to me as well that are looking for representation. So, and I really want to see what women are out there. I'm not getting any inquiries from female athletes yet. Maybe they're hesitant. I don't know. Or maybe they're already.
So we're gonna make this easy. So
I don't know.
Let's go make this easy for you. So if somebody wants to contact you for representation, if they just want to see what you got going on, how do they find Nina's Playbook?
The best way is Nina's Playbook on Instagram. That's my go-to. DM me. I answer the majority of them because I do because you never know who's out there. You don't want to pass up on somebody that's like, hey, I need some representation. Or can I talk to you? I try to give people, the time and give me their pitch on what they want to do. And, sometimes I have to let them know, okay, you might have to wait a little bit, but that is that's the best route, because honestly, I'm a freelancer, and I don't know if we talked about it earlier. My primary job is I'm an entertainment attorney. I'm a corporate attorney. I work for a major conglomerate media company, Viacom, CBS. That's with CBS Sports and Nickelodeon, MTV, all that. So that's my main priority. That how I started in the industry, and sports is just all under that umbrella. So that all comes under the playbook for me. So that's the best place.
Well, listen, your playbook is definitely gave us some tools to get through the dodge the right, get to the left, and score a touchdown when it comes down to NIL. We want to thank you so much for taking the time, for coming on the show today. And that is another episode of Hudricolive in the books.